Kody said that his wife Robin couldn't come because if she did come, she was gonna murder me. Are you crazy? Dude, I couldn't even fucking believe it. First of all, together his wife wants to put a gun to my head.
Is very aware of this sort of side deal that Kody brought up.
Honestly, nobody was really talking to anybody. Like, Kody and I were the only ones that were really talking, trying to get this deal to go through.
Kody Brown didn't just lie. He dragged his own wife's name through the mud to do it. Ah, Kody Brown. Forever mistaking chaos for charisma and manipulation for affection. Once again, the patriarch of polygamy finds himself at the center of drama, this time involving a claim that his ever-patient, ever-weeping wife, Robin, allegedly wants to murder Brianna Chicken Fry, the social media personality and Special Forces co-star. Except, minor detail, Robin never said it. Let's dispense with the pleasantries and cut to the obvious. Kody, in his usual flair for attention-seeking theatrics, seems to have invented this gem of a line and attributed it to his wife to generate sympathy, fear, or perhaps just headlines. The woman in question has never met Robin, and the alleged threat seems to have passed from Robin's mouth straight through Kody's imagination and into the tabloid echo chamber. The only thing Robin might want to murder is the life choice that led her into this circus. But alas, she bought the merch. She's stuck on the ride. The pattern is so familiar it barely needs retelling. Kody makes an outrageous claim. The public reacts. Kody basks in the chaos, then retreats into martyrdom. Meanwhile, Robin is left looking like the deranged co-conspirator in a drama she may not have even scripted. If she is angry this time, who could blame her? Her husband told a bald-faced lie, made her sound unhinged to serve his ego, and now it's plastered across magazines and podcast episodes. Not that Robin is entirely above suspicion. She's long been branded the sainted, soft-spoken strategist who silently outmaneuvered the other wives into exile. But this accusation doesn't fit her calculated MO. She's not the type to make loud threats. She just quietly wins. One by one, the original three exited the stage, leaving Robin to bask in the hollow victory of a man no one else wants. And Kody, oh Kody, he thrives on this mess, stirring up resentment, pitting women against each other, crafting narratives that make him seem irresistible to all parties. It's his favorite pastime, second only to rewriting his own history. Even if Robin did crack a joke, it's unlikely it involved homicide, but that doesn't stop Kody from spinning it into a melodrama starring himself. The situation reeks of projection. Kody's bruised ego can't tolerate Brianna's perceived emasculation of him on Special Forces. So, naturally, he casts her as the villain and himself as the misunderstood hero whose wife is so overcome with jealousy, she's homicidal. It's a story so absurd, even Us Weekly couldn't take it seriously. They used a decade-old photo of Robin, perhaps to match the maturity level of the source. This is textbook Kody. Reframe the narrative, blame someone else, then act persecuted. It's the same pattern he used with his children. On Special Forces, he claimed he only has relationships with the kids who respect him, then feigned a breakthrough about needing to change, only to later admit he said what producers wanted to hear. So much for the tearful redemption arc. His death letter to Robin, lavishing her with praise while simultaneously ignoring the children he allegedly wants to reconnect with, was a masterclass in delusion. And of course, he couldn't even say, "I love you," to his children directly. He asked Robin to relay the message, like an overworked customer service rep. Let's not pretend this is surprising. Kody and Robin speak in code, where family only includes those who stroke Kody's ego and never challenge him. And when he suddenly starts referring to Robin as his queen, after years of never using the term, it's not romance. It's rivalry, a desperate attempt to mimic Christine and David's genuinely affectionate relationship, as if forced mimicry could undo years of public contempt. No one is buying it. Not the public, not his estranged children, Certainly not the OG3, who, rest assured, aren't tuning into special forces for more of Kody's performative self-flagellation. As for Robin, if she really is Kody's queen, it's in a crumbling kingdom ruled by ego, denial, and passive-aggressive monologues. They can keep their lion rings and delusions of royalty. The rest of us have seen enough to know that no amount of costume jewelry can disguise a failing regime. The truth is this: Kody Brown is not a misunderstood man struggling to hold his family together. He's a self-absorbed showman who fuels the fire, then weeps over the ashes. And as his dwindling audience watches him stumble through yet another reinvention, the question isn't whether Robin wanted to murder someone. It's whether anyone can survive another season of his nonsense. Kody Brown says he's finally a monogamist. Here's why that's not just laughable, it's offensive. In a twist as ironic as it is overdue, Janelle Brown has now received her formal spiritual release from Kody, a symbolic severing of a marriage that ceased functioning long before paperwork caught up. According to Kody himself, who recently graced the Vile Files podcast with his uniquely bloated sense of self-importance, 2 of his former wives have been released in the eyes of their church. One assumes he considers this tidbit to be revelatory. The rest of us simply call it closure. Let's take a moment to consider the horror of enduring an entire hour of Kody Brown pontificating alongside Nick Viall, a man who manages to rival Kody in both vanity and vacuity. The pairing is almost poetic in its unbearable smugness. That podcast episode should come with a Surgeon General's warning. Exposure may cause nausea, delusions of grandeur, or sudden loss of brain cells. Amidst this circus of self-congratulation, Christine Brown's quiet defiance continues to sting most effectively. Her decision to label her marriage to David Woolley as her first marriage on the wedding license wasn't petty. It was precision. A single checkbox carried more weight than all of Kody's theatrics, because it did what he never could. It made the end real. Legally and symbolically, she wiped the slate clean. Unlike Janelle, Christine has not pursued a formal church release, and while she may not feel compelled, one could argue she should, if only to twist the celestial knife a little deeper. After all, her post-Kody glow-up is what truly appears to rattle him. She found a man who adores her, respects her, and, most damning of all, doesn't require multiple wives to feel significant. Kody, predictably, cannot comprehend that kind of love. Narcissism and empathy do not cohabitate. But perhaps the most bizarre development in this ongoing melodrama is Kody and Robin's sudden embrace of monogamy, as though they're starring in a low-budget reenactment of Christine and David's relationship. There's a strained performativity in their proclamations, cloaked in the language of commitment, but steeped in desperation. Their monogamy is less a belief system than it is a rebrand, damage control masquerading as destiny. According to church doctrine, once a woman is physically involved with another man, the spiritual bond to her former husband is effectively nullified. Christine, by that measure, is already spiritually free. Janelle, however, honored the formalities. And good for her, because if Kody ever attempts to claw his way back into religious relevance, she won't be counted among his celestial entourage. Robin, of course, still clings to the fantasy of eternal family unity, as if she hasn't spent years orchestrating its unraveling. Should Kody ever reassemble a celestial cast, she'll be the first wife by default, with Janelle now removed from the equation. Not that it matters. Kody and Robin already occupy their own private planet, the holy world of perpetual victimhood. No need for additional wives. There's barely room for reality. As for Kody's sudden declaration that he's the one making the Thanksgiving turkey now, an image as implausible as it is unnecessary, it seems he's rewriting not just his history, but also his menu. In truth, that role was long held by Mary, until Robin swooped in and reassigned it to herself in yet another hollow flex. The result? A missing turkey, an absent hostess, and a holiday as fragmented as the family that once celebrated it. Mary's symbolic act of making a turkey out of Rice Krispies, Kody's favorite, speaks volumes. She may not wield spiritual release documents, but she's learned to weaponize sentimentality with surgical precision. If Christine went for the kidney, Mary's aiming for the soul, one skillet to the afterlife at a time. In the end, the tragedy of Kody Brown isn't that he lost his wives. It's that he never understood why. They've moved on. They've released themselves. He's still making podcast appearances to prove he mattered. The Celestial Kingdom doesn't want him, and neither do they. Janelle was never the victim. She was the original Robin. Amid the ongoing power plays of sister wives, one particular conversation is being brushed aside with startling nonchalance. Janelle's admission that Mary was left entirely in the dark about a side deal between Kody and herself. Her words, as plain as day, confirm it. Mary wasn't told. Not by Kody, and certainly not by Janelle. When the director bluntly asks, "Was Mary aware?" Janelle's response, casual and unbothered, speaks volumes. Nobody was really talking to anybody, she shrugs. Except, of course, she and Kody, who were apparently plotting financial logistics in hushed tones while everyone else played catch-up. It's a betrayal wrapped in beige indifference. And yet, the conversation gets buried beneath the endless sands of viewer bias. Everyone is quick to defend their favorite wife. Like a televised gladiator match, loyalty here is tribal. If you like her, she gets the benefit of the doubt. If you don't, she's the villain. But behind the familiar narrative arcs and rehearsed monologues, there's a deeper rot. These are not innocent victims of circumstance. They are savvy players on a long-running reality stage. They know what garners sympathy. They know what keeps the cameras rolling. The original three wives, Janelle, Christine, and Mary, have all taken turns donning the victim's veil and pointing fingers. None is consistently virtuous, and none is entirely damned. Except, perhaps, for Kody and Robin, whose commitment to self-interest has become performance art. Janelle, however, deserves a sharper lens in this moment. The popular image of her as the pragmatic one, the calm within the storm, falters under scrutiny. At best, she's been opportunistic. At worst, complicit. Consider this. When Garrison died, it was Mary, not Christine, who showed up at Janelle's door with food and support. At the burial, it was Mary who stood beside her, offering comfort. This was not a fair-weather alliance. Mary, for all her faults, extended loyalty when it mattered. Janelle repaid it by keeping her in the dark on a financial deal that directly impacted them both. That's not shrewdness, it's betrayal. This isn't new behavior either. Janelle has a long history of straddling the fence, playing both sides when it benefits her. And while her brand of duplicity is often cloaked in rationality and financial necessity, it doesn't make it any less self-serving. Somehow, despite her consistent proximity to Kody's financial power, she's received minimal scrutiny. But let's examine the receipts. Janelle and Kody managed the family's finances. Christine provided unpaid childcare, hours, years, lifetimes of it, enabling Janelle to work outside the home. That labor, invisible and unpaid, was what allowed Janelle and Kody to thrive financially. Yet Janelle never once challenged the imbalance, never pulled the alarm. Why would she? The system worked, for her. Her contributions? A modest salary that didn't touch the value of what Christine provided. And when the financial tides turned and Kody began freezing her out, suddenly, Janelle was choosing the kids and wanting what's fair. The timing is convenient. Her moral clarity arrives only when her own interests are threatened. Even now, Janelle is living in her daughter's house, navigating a drawn-out split from Kody, desperate to recoup money from the Coyote Pass deal. The catch? That money is entangled in a stalemate between Mary and Kody, complete with NDAs and legal deadlocks. Enter Janelle, urgently maneuvering to get what she believes she's owed, even if it means aligning herself with the same man who's already burned her. And Mary? Once again, the sacrificial lamb. She believes she and Janelle are allies in this venture. That illusion is shattered when Janelle admits, on camera, that she had no intention of including Mary in the discussions. That's not just poor communication, it's calculated exclusion. Of course, in true Robin fashion, she emerges from the shadows to assure us that she only wanted things to be fair. Her smug delivery is the final insult. If she truly believed fairness was at stake, then what does that make of a husband who orchestrates a covert financial agreement and demands silence via legal paperwork? Let's not forget, when Janelle finally did try to warn Mary, it came after Mary had already stood her ground. The warning wasn't a gesture of solidarity, it was a desperate effort to keep Mary from walking away and tanking the deal altogether. Because without Mary's cooperation, the entire property arrangement risked collapse, and Janelle knew it. Her defenders insist Janelle had no power, that she was merely a cog in Kody's machine. But that argument falls apart under even the slightest legal scrutiny. Kody couldn't sell anything without her signature. She was on 2 of the property titles. She had leverage, and she used it for herself. The revisionist defense that Janelle's actions were driven by financial survival rings hollow. Everyone in this family is trying to survive, but not all of them are quietly enabling exploitation until the tide turns. Janelle's silence while Mary was bled financially dry wasn't neutral. It was permission. She didn't object to the game until she was losing. The final insult? When Mary, skeptical but still hopeful, asked Janelle if she had her back, Janelle answered yes. Mary looked relieved, still believing in a sliver of trust. It was a performance worthy of a daytime Emmy. The show continues, as it always does. But let's not pretend this is just another case of misunderstood intentions. Janelle didn't simply forget to loop Mary in. She made a choice. And like every good reality villain, she did it with a straight face. Kody Brown didn't survive the Special Forces challenge. He survived himself. And that's worse. There's a brief, fleeting moment, perhaps 2 glorious minutes, when Kody Brown almost manages to pass as relatable. On the Special Forces reunion, hosted by Nick Viall, he's asked what kept him going during the show. He begins on solid ground, reflecting on the sheer absurdity of the experience and laughing about being clotheslined by Sean. For a moment, there he is, charming, self-aware, even likable. And then, predictably, he opens his mouth again. No sooner does he seem normal than he dives straight into melodrama, claiming he's been haunted by the interrogation scenes and needs something new to shake the PTSD out of his system. Of course he does. Because nothing says balanced response to a reality show quite like diagnosing oneself with trauma while fishing for another gig. Let's be honest. Nobody signs up for Special Forces without hoping for more visibility, money, or, at the very least, a second chance to stay relevant. Yet somehow, Kody still manages to make ambition look painfully awkward. Case in point, as one castmate, Chicken Fry, in a moment of actual emotional sincerity, talks about how important it is for children to have two-way relationships with their parents, Kody sits beside her, grinning like he's misunderstood the assignment entirely. It's less heartwarming, more unsettling, as if he's nodding through a conversation he doesn't quite grasp. Socially adrift, he gives the impression of someone desperately trying to mimic human interaction and failing just enough to make it sad. Then there's his choice of language, referring to the women on the show as "my ladies" during a discussion about interrogations. It's not endearing, it's weird. Not endearing and weird, just weird. To be fair, and credit where it's due, the entire cast complained about the infamous door challenge, and several admitted to skipping meals. Kody wasn't alone there, but even when he's on the same page as everyone else, he insists on taking it a step too far. At one point, he talks, repeatedly, about how he wanted to beat an NFL player. Not just compete, beat. There's nothing quite like watching a middle-aged polygamist declare himself superior to professional athletes. His arrogance isn't even clever, it's transparent. He puts others down with a smugness so obvious, it's almost insulting to witness. He seems convinced that no one notices his condescension, which makes it even more embarrassing when everyone clearly does. And let's not ignore the elephant-sized bag of supplements he brought with him. While others struggled, Kody thrived physically, and not without help. Bree, in a move that was far more revealing than sarcastic, pointed out the quantity of performance enhancers he had with him. Legal or not, his chemical advantage was on full display. One has to wonder what version of Special Forces he thought he signed up for. The survival course or a GNC-sponsored obstacle race? Kody Brown is a man on a mission. To be seen, to be admired, to be the guy who outlasted the NFL players. But no matter how fit he is, no matter how earnestly he tries to insert himself into the ensemble, he simply cannot resist derailing his own credibility. Every time he gets close to a genuine human moment, he swerves into odd, self-important behavior that makes viewers recoil rather than relate. In the end, Kody's greatest obstacle isn't the course, it's himself. Robin Brown was never in love with Kody. She was in love with the paycheck. After an entire season of visibly recoiling from Kody Brown's every breath, Robin Brown's sudden display of affection in episode 8 of Sister Wives season 20 lands with all the subtlety of a bad soap opera kiss. After 15 years of marriage, she's finally discovered she doesn't like his mustache? Or rather, she's discovered she likes him better without it. Conveniently on camera. How touching. Let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't affection. This was theater. A woman cornered by her own narrative, faced with a clean-shaven husband and a camera crew rolling. What's a master manipulator to do but muster a kiss? And yet, even in this forced intimacy, she couldn't quite mask the disgust. She spun away from him mid-smooch, like someone retreating from a sneeze. Hardly the gesture of a wife lost in romantic bliss. It's no surprise, then, that production chose to leave the awkward flinch in. They easily could have cut it a second earlier to salvage the moment, but they didn't. Perhaps even they have grown weary of helping Robin sell the illusion of a love story no one's buying anymore. The mustache was never the problem. Her exaggerated horror at his upper lip was a flimsy excuse, one that dissolves quickly under scrutiny. The real issue isn't facial hair. It's that she clearly doesn't want to be physically near him. The forced kisses, the repeated kisses, kisses, more kisses mantra. It all reeked of overcompensation. The kind of scene only a woman desperately trying to convince an audience, or maybe even herself, that everything is fine, would dare to perform. And let's talk about the timing. The CP Pass scene was filmed in late March or early April, which neatly places this act in the context of public backlash. Robin has never convincingly hidden her disdain for Kody, except when it serves her. Whether it's to counter negative viewer perceptions or to keep up appearances for the children, or perhaps more accurately, for the bank account, her behavior is scripted down to the last strained peck. There's no mistaking her endgame. Redemption. The shopping queen, who once couldn't stomach public displays of affection, now clings to Kody like a woman auditioning for a reboot. But no matter how many mall strolls or hand-holding photo ops she stages, the truth leaks out around the edges. Her kids may say they're loved up, but her face says otherwise. Robin's entire on-camera persona seems built on contradiction. One moment, she's the bashful, PDA-averse innocent who just finds Kody too much. The next, she's lavishing kisses and playing the doting wife. This isn't love. It's damage control. A carefully curated performance meant to rewrite a history that doesn't suit her narrative anymore. Because here's the inconvenient truth. Robin was never in it for love. She was in it for the money, the fame, and the fantasy of being Kody's one true queen. And now that the fairy tale is tarnished beyond repair, she's fumbling to keep the tiara from slipping. Yes. After years of feigned modesty and calculated sweetness, Robin's act is wearing thin. The affection is performative, the devotion transactional, and the entire relationship off-camera likely unrecognizable from what airs. But perhaps that's the point. This isn't a marriage. It's a long-running audition. And unfortunately for Robin, the audience has seen enough. Sister Wives didn't fail because of polygamy. It failed because of Kody. There's a distinct sense of poetic tragedy in watching the Flagstaff season of Sister Wives with full knowledge of the wreckage that lies ahead. The family's grand plans to build on Coyote Pass, a sprawling communal utopia that never even made it to the blueprint stage, play out like a farce with tragic undertones. It's not just the failed real estate fantasies that catch the eye. It's the unmistakable scent of unraveling, masked in the language of unity and new beginnings. This is, quite clearly, the beginning of the end. The Coyote Pass move was never about building anything. It was an elaborate illusion of progress, the kind you stage when you're desperate to avoid addressing deeper rot. And now, in hindsight, it reads as a monument to dysfunction, a patch of land as barren as the family bonds it was supposed to nurture. But what if things had gone differently? Two hypothetical detours often come up in re-examinations. Staying in Las Vegas, with the infamous cul-de-sac of separate yet connected homes, actually building the one large communal home on Coyote Pass before COVID arrived to finish what Kody had already started. Would anything have truly changed? Unlikely. Had they stayed in Vegas, Robin would have still lobbied for the family's migration, under the noble guise of following Dayton's schooling, dragging Kody with her to Flagstaff, whether the rest joined or not. The family leader would have, predictably, weaponized his martyrdom, commuting between states, grumbling about the burden of being unappreciated, and claiming betrayal when the others dared to root themselves in stability. He would have spun himself into knots about being disrespected as the patriarch, while refusing to see how his own behavior fractured the family. COVID, no matter the zip code, would have provided him the perfect excuse to enforce selective isolation. If the wives weren't following his so-called protocols, he wouldn't have visited, whether they were across town or under the same roof. The virus didn't break the family. It simply revealed the depth of its fractures. And if they had built that single, giant home, the dysfunction would have had a far more glaring spotlight. Kody's favoritism would have been harder to disguise when it was just a hallway away. The idea of communal living, so often touted as an ideal, would have fast-tracked the collapse. He would have sealed off doors, created invisible hierarchies, and turned shared space into contested territory. In that setting, the original three wives wouldn't have just emotionally withdrawn, they would have been exiled, watching in real time as Robin and her children became the sole beneficiaries of Kody's affection and attention. There's also a cruel irony in revisiting the Las Vegas years. The cul-de-sac arrangement, once dismissed by Kody as too settled, was the closest thing to a functional plural family life they ever had. The children thrived, the wives had autonomy with proximity, and there was at least a semblance of equilibrium. But of course, that didn't suit Kody's appetite for chaos disguised as spiritual calling. Stability isn't sexy when your ego needs a mission. By the end of the Vegas era, Kody himself looked transformed, not enlightened, but depleted. His wild-eyed sermons on leadership gave way to frazzled incoherence, his hair channeling more Geico caveman than charismatic patriarch. It's almost symbolic. The image of a man unraveling under the weight of the very structure he claimed to be holding together. Flagstaff wasn't a fresh start. It was a financial and emotional disaster, orchestrated under the guise of divine direction, but rooted firmly in ego, delusion, and favoritism. The family didn't follow a calling. They followed a man who couldn't bear to be irrelevant in a system he no longer controlled. In the end, no location would have saved them. The problem wasn't geography. It was governance, and the longer they pretended otherwise, the more surreal the collapse became. Like a bad episode of Sliding Doors, we can imagine all the alternate paths, but they all lead to the same destination: disintegration. The only real question is how many detours the Brown family needed before they realized they were already lost. Subscribe.